everybody. Welcome to another episode of Video Marketing Success Stories. I'm your host, Andy Blickman. As is often the case, I have CEO and founder of Rip Media Group, Mr. Maury Rogow, alongside me. How you doing, Maury?
Thank you. Hey, bud. How are you? It's good to be back here. I'm feeling like a regular now.
You're about as close to it. In fact, could you, I meant to talk to you about taking out the trash and turning off the AC. You forgot last time, and the pills are getting outrageous.
There's a line, and you may have just stepped over it.
Today, we're going to do something unique. We're going to talk about a Rip Media Group project. How about that for something new and different?
That is new and different. It's one of my favorite subjects.
Yes,
Are you kidding?
Well it should be. And it is something we often talk about because, let's face it, you guys might not be the only game in town, but you're definitely one of the best.
Thank you.
It's one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite football coaches, Bum Phillips, father of Wade Phillips.
Yeah, Houston Oilers. I remember.
He was asked about Earl Campbell, and he said, Earl Campbell might not be in a class by himself, but it sure don't take long to call the roll. And that is how I think of Rip Media Group as a video marketing entity. And
that's very, very kind of you. Thank you for saying that. And
no problem.
And maybe I will take out that trash after all.
I appreciate it. That's how you earn the housekeepers.
Oh, you got me. Well done. Well played, maestro.
Just a little buttering up. But as we often do, we talk about some projects and we kind of dig into the vault to find some unique things that you guys have done. And there's a lot of fun stuff and interesting stuff. And one that I wanted to talk about today was probably a friend of Rip Media Group, because I know you guys have done a number of videos for them, Rolebot. Yeah. And we'll get into sort of what Rolebot does and what that means. But one thing that I noticed and really gravitated to in watching some of the videos was this really interesting typography animation, or typography motion graphic, I guess is the way you guys referred to it for the video. So I wanted to talk to you about that. And as always, what I would like to do as we dive into these projects and dive into these companies is talk about how the heck you got to know them, how they got to know you. Where did they come from? Where did Rolebot and the project materialize from?
So Rolebot materialized from, I'll say the CEO's name is Shane, and we've been circling each other for years, actually. Kind of saw each other at different events, ran into each other at different CEO groups, because his company, or his part of his company, I guess, where he started was being a placement agency for CTOs and very high-end developers and engineers. So that company name is Q Connect. So really, really well known throughout California, placing a lot of, I think they place people at, Verizon and, startups and that kind of thing. So, we'd come across different people, and we'd come across each other and knew a lot of the same people, because a lot of those technology companies are our clients. And of course, they're his clients too. Different areas, we're helping to tell their stories, and he's helping to get them, new positions or helping to get them hires. And two things happened. I ran into him very randomly. I was pretty excited to do a TV interview for a show called Business Rock Stars. And so they were having me on as a business rock star, which is really, humbling, but really exciting to do. So was on that show. And then they're going to have kind of an interview, a panel, and they have somebody walk in, and he walks in, and there's Shane. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So we're both sitting there in the same room. And so after that, we got to talking. He was telling me about his new venture, which now is, well into, many months into it, and they're exploding in growth, this idea of Rolebot. So Rolebot is this new software where they're actually, instead of manually finding, sourcing, and getting great talent out there, they have an AI, a bot that goes out and finds great talent, contacts them, and starts setting them up for interviews. So it saves, days, weeks, months of searching for these companies looking for great talent. So he's telling me about this, and it's obvious to me, because it took him 10 to 20 minutes to explain the whole thing. I said, I think you need some video to help out this story so people can understand this in, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, just get that interest peaked. And then, you can tell them the longer story. He said, absolutely, we do. You're absolutely right. Let's do it. So it was almost immediate. And he had a big event coming up, and, I'm not going to say the rest is history, but I want to give you a chance to ask some questions.
Cool. So that's how that connection was made. And then once he signed up to the idea, or signed on for the idea of making videos, then comes sort of the time for the creative process. So talk a little bit about how you and the team kind of went through their general information, which I guess is always part of the process. You sort of absorb it as much as you can about the company, and then somehow decipher a way to approach it in terms of the visual style.
Yeah, that's great. So there's also some other time pressures that were on this one. So what we really like to do with any customer and any client, any project at all, is learn as much as we possibly can about them, their progress, their their goals for the next year or two, their competitors, the market, the whole thing, and then come back once we know who they're talking to, what's important to them, right? And then what makes this company unique, we'll start pitching ideas. In this particular case, we had a heavy, heavy dose of pressure. In 3 weeks, he had his CTO forum where a couple hundred of the regions, kind of most well known and heavy hitting, chief technology officers were all getting together in one room for, he puts on this big dinner and it's a very formal thing and so forth. So he wanted to launch his new product and tell about it there. And he didn't want it to take the 10 minutes for this huge demo. So I said, all right, let's get into isolating this in two ways. One is, there's the pyramid: time, quality, and speed, right? It's kind of like, pick two. So you can't do, or excuse me, time, quality, and price, right? So, being a startup, kind of an offshoot, his budget was a little bit limited. I'm not going to say anything about that, but certainly somebody that I've circled for so many years, I wanted to help him out however I could. But the main thing was we had 3 weeks and we had a big story to tell. So I said, let's separate this into two things. There's why, what, and how. So there's why it's going to be important to your audience, why this really matters to them. We got to get that story across really fast in a really exciting way. You got a room of people. You're about to do basically a speech. So we want to grab their attention right off the bat. So let's focus there. He was into it. He loved that idea. And then I said, we'll do a second video that's more of the what and the how. So the how is how you use it. So why is this important to me? I'm sitting here, I'm eating a steak dinner. I got a tuxedo on. I'm here to, meet other people and network and so forth. You got to pop something up that's going to grab my attention and say, this is important to you because, and that's the why it's important. And then a little bit of the what it does for you. And then a second video to follow up with these folks, because he can email them, he can call them and that kind of thing, and then send them over a little bit more of the what it does and how it works. And the how it works is certainly, kind of a product overview, that kind of thing. You don't want it to be 10 minutes. You want to narrow that down. So we broke this project out into two different videos. And the first was, hopefully we can show it here. I wanted him to be able to talk over it. We didn't want to have a voiceover. I just wanted some really pumping, fun, thumping music and make this thing, tell the story visually. We wanted people to have to watch. So the music was playing. So we did kinetic typography. We used they had a really great iconic mascot that they used. And we had the story told really quick. And it goes, it's the pain, the path, and the promise. That's the quick why. What's the pain you're going through right now? What's the path you could take? And what's the promise of a better future, the promise of transformation? So, that's sort of going to be my new acronym. I think the triple P is, they used to call it the pain, the dream, and the solution, but I like this better. So we focused on that. And we knocked this video out really quickly for him. 3 weeks is a really fast time for this kind of video. And if you want to know about the production phase, I'll tell you. So we dove in. I actually worked directly with him on it with that short of a time, to kind of do the research and that kind of thing. And knowing him for years, I just said, I'm just going to work on this thing directly. Pulled an animator in, pulled our voice artist in, our music designer in. Yeah.
So that constituted the concept phase. So, and then you just pretty much launched into production.
Yeah, with that kind of time frame, 3 weeks, which is basically half to a third of the time that a normal production would take. We jumped straight into it. It was basically, we had, instead of every other day or a couple of times a week calls, we had everyday calls to check in and move this process through. Because you say 3 weeks, it really takes a few days just to start before they can say, oh, okay, we'll arrange some conference calls. And I always want to deliver early so that they can test out the video before a live event like this. So we had a really condensed timeline. So the concept was executed piece by piece, I threw a couple different ideas past him. I said, look, what if we keep this thing really fast moving? What if we remove the voiceover? Let's get the thumping music. Let's have kinetic typography and some, and the ability to tell your story very fast, just to grab attention. If you approve of that, we can move through quicker. And he said, no, I love the idea. That's going to become the front page of our website as well, which is a really great idea. So we moved through, and the steps, the process were, let's throw out a concept first, which I think I threw out two. He loved this one the most, which was great. And we went straight through, and basically it's it's a script, but it's revised script. When you're doing typography, you really want to narrow things down and not tell some long story. You don't want people to have to read. It's bullet points, it's keywords, it's get people to move through and, be riveted by what's on the screen there, but tell a complete story that makes a whole lot of sense. So I mentioned before, what's the pain, what's the path, and what's the promise. We actually reversed the order a little bit. We talked about the basically where they are, what they're going through, what the promise could be. And then we moved into a little bit of the pain. And that's days, weeks, months of lost time and productivity. And now we're bringing that down to seconds. Yes, seconds, because they have an AI robot doing this. So it really worked out well. And I'm happy to share the link here so that people can take a look at it. And again, this is, one of, I think at that month, that time, that was one of a couple of dozen projects we had going on. So that had to move through really, really quickly so we could throw the resources at it, as quickly as we could.
Right. And so when you're telling the story with words, like a typography video does, in lieu of pictures, I guess on the one hand, it's simpler, but on the other hand, you're looking for interesting ways to feature those words. So how do you take the time, or do you take the time to really walk through every way that these words can appear on screen? Sometimes they come from top to bottom, or left to right, or right to left, or swirl in. Mm-hmm. What's the deciding factor for how to bring words in that help keep the attention and capture the imagination?
That's great. It's a great question. So there's two sides of this. One is, it reminds me of a Mark Twain quote, right? Samuel Clemens said, I believe it was
from Bum Phillips to Mark Twain. We're covering the gamut today.
so for you sports fans out there, if you don't know who this guy was, he said, look, if I have 90 minutes to speak, or if I'm writing a movie, give me a month. If I'm writing a 90-second clip or a 60-second, piece, give me 3 months. Right. It takes so much longer, right? It takes so much longer. Boy, that is not his quote. They weren't movies at the time.
When you're doing video marketing, sure, Mark Twain had a lot to say about video marketing.
He did. He was all in that animation back in the 1870s. He predicted it. So anyway, it takes a lot longer to do a really short, punchy, good message. So, there's two things. There's just the message, getting that across. Once you have that, then it's how do we rivet, how do we capture the person's eye so that they can keep reading it, read it fast, but absorb it at the same time. So speed really matters. And then you're talking about, how do we enter it? So one of the best ways with typography is actually for words to pop on one after the other. And we've actually found through studies that if you're actually going to read, left to right, like we do in English, or right to left, like other languages, I think, Hebrew and in Mandarin, that kind of thing, word to word to word is one way to do it. If you want to speed read, what you can do is you pop up one word right in center of the screen after the other. So boom, 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 right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 appears right at the one, is there, then it disappears for a 2, disappears for a 3, 4. So you play with that a little bit. You need it to be interesting visually, so you have to move around the screen and move the camera around, but you do want to have it punchy enough so that the brain can absorb it even faster than you can say it. So it's a really interesting game to play there. So if you do a lot of things like you mentioned at the end, probably just threw out, oh, we could do swirls or this or that, that actually makes the brain work. And then when the brain works a little bit harder, the content, the message can be lost. So we want to keep it as simple as possible, but elegant. And it's a delicate game, right? You make it more elegant, but then you have to slow things down so the brain can absorb it. If you make it, fast moving, you got to make it really easy for the brain to capture it. So there's some techniques we use. Certainly use the, kind of the pop on, word one after the other, just like the speed reading technique. Here, I'm actually playing it in the background here. And sometimes we move out and we use some iconography, give a quick example. So it's not just type, 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 type. That's extremely boring. You got to throw some typography on top and some icons, if we're showing a calendar, we're showing, time, there's representation of the words that can make a big difference too. So it's a bit of an art and a science there.
Exactly. Then video marketing plus neuroscience. who would have thought that you would have to add in a little bit of psychology too, I guess. But
Yeah.
all facets of a very interesting game that we love to call the world of video marketing. And Maury Rogow and Rip Media Group are some of the best at it. And as always, we appreciate your stopping by and talking to us about another great successful project.
Thank you.
So Maury, do you have any resources you could recommend to our listeners that they can check out either through your website or some other way?
Sure, absolutely. There's some great resources that we put together out there. So 3 that come to mind really quick. One is the Video Bot, THE Video Bot, like robot. The Video Bot helps people make their own videos in seconds, and it's a resource that we've been using really successfully, and our customers have been using. So, you want to get back in touch with that cold lead, or the person that hasn't gotten back in touch with you, or you just want to do some outreach, or even wish somebody, happy birthday, happy holidays. There are videos sitting in there waiting for you to personalize, and you can literally do it in seconds and send it out. And there is it's free for the first period of time. So that's a great resource. Second, if I'll give you a link to this, but this is basically it's called the Create the Salesperson That Never Sleeps. And this was actually compiled from all the frequently asked questions that we've had over the years from different customers of ours. So we put all those FAQs together and then turned it into a scorecard and a way to create your own best video marketing message and just marketing messages. So if you go there, you click on it, it's a free download, kind of download this workbook. I think it's 6 pages, nothing too laborious. It's not going to take you a year to go through, maybe a few minutes or half an hour, and you will have a great roadmap for what you should be setting up as far as your company's best stories. So that is creating the salesperson that never sleeps. And then the last thing is, ways to promote your video or your story. There's another link that I could get you. And I believe that infographic is the 10 best ways to promote your video and your story. And I'll give you a link there. So those are the 3 things I can think of quickly. And happy to share more if you hit us up on our website at ripmediagroup.com.
Great, thank you. For more information on Rip Media Group, what they have done and can do for you, visit them at ripmediagroup.com. Check out their blogs and their video samples. And we will see you next time on Video Marketing Success Stories. Thank you all very much. Take care.
Thank you.